The letter Y. Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. Yule, Christmas, festival or season. We also have yogurt, yolk and Yorkshire pudding. We're getting back to basics with the A to Z Christmas challenge. I'm sure you've all been following along. We're getting now down to the last few. So I am the letter Y. I'm Melanie from the Treasured Page and this is hosted by Rach and Bella Crafts and Rose from Journals in Time. I can't thank you all enough for inviting me to have a go. So Y, Yule, Yuletide. We've been asked to get back to basics, and a very basic craft is to go back in time. Let me have a look at the sheets of the kit that I have been given. So I've been given Yuletide. So we've got this cover of a annual here from 1893. That's really exciting. That's a era in time of particular interest. We're in Victorian England. So that's okay. I'm happy with that. I've only been given 2 sheets, so the challenge is on here, guys. The challenge is on. Yo-yos are Suffolk puffs and they're made out of fabric and they're ruched fabric and little circular puffs. So that's what we're going to be using today. Getting back to basics is quite difficult, but you cannot get more basic than a needle and a thread and a quiet craft. Just a quick look at the kit so we can get our minds around what we've got here. We've got the cover of an annual. This comes from Rose's part of the kit. This is from Journals in Time. And we can see that there are some cards here, a warm heart and a glowing hearth. We'll be doing papercraft and working with fabric, so it's just something a little bit different I want to show you today. This is high quality self-adhesive sticky matte white paper. There's 50 sheets in this pack, it's 80 GSM. I've left the link below to a pack that's slightly different from this because the price has gone down recently on a different pack, but it's exactly the same quality. These are sheets of sticky paper. So it's an A4 sheet of paper and then it is one big huge sticker. Okay, so today I thought I'd attempt something a little different by trying to print onto fabric to give us a different look and to show you how you can use your kit in a different way using this technique. And I'm going to use a piece of white cotton there. That could be a bed sheet, it could be anything. It will probably want an iron, but I'm hoping that that'll be okay once it gets stuck down. So that's what I've got so far. If you haven't got linen or cotton or fabric and the whole idea of working with fabric is not for you, you can just do this craft in paper, but I did want to just give you a different idea here. Okay, so I'm peeling this off and it's actually very sticky. Right, grabbing a duster, I am just going to remove some of that stickiness. Let's just go for it. So I'm lining my fabric up at the top. I'm going to cut it away, so I want to overhang. That's fine. Using the paper as my guide, I'm just going to trim around so that I'm left with a true edge. So we could use the metal ruler. I've got a rotary cutter here, but you can use sharp scissors, and we just, minding our fingers, retracting the blade, we just remove the excess and go round all 4 sides. For this demonstration, I'm going to put this through my inkjet printer. Now, I have a top loading printer which will allow it to feed in. So it will feed in and it should come out then. And here we have it. So it's come back from the printer. It's come out really well. The colours are lovely and rich. Now we've managed to print onto fabric, what are we going to do? Well, I thought that because this is a book cover anyway, we'd use that idea and create a little booklet for the purpose of keeping our notes and keeping us all in check this Christmas. It's quite nice to record what gifts we want to give people, what we've received, and also maybe our Christmas card list, something like that. So we're going to create a little booklet using this. This has come out so well. It's lovely and soft. I'm going to run an iron over it and just heat set that all in. Before I iron it, I'm going to remove the backing paper just so that I don't weld any glue permanently onto this backing paper. So I'm gently just going to pull this away from the sticker. And there you go. All right, so I'm removing the threads and I'm going to just cut this green portion free of my journaling cards here, just leaving myself 1/4 of an inch there. I have got the fancy rulers and everything, but the glare from the light is a bit much, so we'll just go with this. If you've got proper equipment, then use that. But this is how we're tackling it here. And then we are going to put those two to one side. They've come out well. And just focus on this for the moment. And I found a scrap of batting here, wadding. And I'm going... Oh, that's going to be perfect, isn't it? This is cotton batting. We just remove that piece. So I've got another go on that one. So I've got more for something else as well. And there we can see that's like that. So it's about 5 inches by 7.5. So you've got a few options on how you can back this with a board or a card. One of these mail out postal envelopes, that's a great thickness. That's perfect, really. If you've got one of those, you could use that. I actually want to keep hold of that because I do need to send something out, so I'm going to not use that. I instead am going to use cereal packaging because it's a good thickness. So you could use your morning cereal packaging or a cracker box. That's fine. And if you would like it nice and thick and sturdy, you just glue 2 together to give you the double thickness. So I'm going to go with this and just cut out one of those panels, and that will be my cardstock. Just to give ourselves a little bit more wiggle room to play with to wrap the fabric round, I've taken off 1/4 of an inch on either side and on the bottom as well. There we go. So now we can see we've got a little bit more to wrap round, and we're definitely going to get the colour tucked in underneath. You won't see the white. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, that's fine. So there's an optional extra step of sewing and putting some embellishment on, which I'm going to do just for the inspiration for you guys and just to finish off the piece, because I want to be able to sew on the yo-yos which we need to make. So now I've got my little layers, a quilt sandwich. I've got my top layer, my middle layer and my bottom layer. And if I put stitches through, then I am then in the realms of quilting, which is an old traditional craft. And that is definitely getting back to basics and giving us an interesting idea to work with here. I'm just reducing the batting down a little bit as well, just to make sure that I really got enough allowance to pull that round. Then I'm going to build up my sandwich here. What I'm going to do is just put a little bit of Yoo-hoo glue. I'm just giving a little twist, just dabbing that on, and this is so it won't slip and slide and I don't have to use pins, and then we can manoeuvre around the project a bit better. So that's the bottom layer, the middle layer of my sandwich, the filling if you like, and then this is going to be the top layer. So again, we'll just put a little sweep of glue in the corners just to stop it sliding about when I want to just work with it. And then that's going on like that. Okay, we're going to have a look at how to make yo-yos. And this is, in England, we know them as Suffolk puffs. And in the US, they're known as yo-yos. So we're going to use this idea to create some embellishments for the front cover. And I found this fabric which has got a nice sort of sateen look to it. It's got little flowers on it, it's delicate. So I'm going to work on what I'm calling the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm going to look for things that are circular around the desk just to give me some options. If you've got a clever cutter and you could, you know, cut them like that out, we might do that. I'm just going to cut them out now so that we can see. It doesn't have to be exact, it just needs to be roughly a circle, using that as your guideline. If you've done this before, then you can choose a variety of different colour fabrics. You can think about what you're going to embellish the top of it with. Do you want it plain? Do you want to add a button? So I think for what I would like to do is add vintage buttons on the top. We're going to say they're yummy vintage beads and buttons, and they're going to just decorate it up. And you know, this is a decadent time of the year, so we're going to just celebrate that with some really lovely embellishments and have a bit of fun with this. So this is something that you can do in the evening, so cut it out in the daytime when you can see what you're doing, and then come the evening you could sit down with a needle and thread and you could just settle into a nice hour session of putting together your yo-yos. And if we're doing it all ahead of time, then it's not all upon us right at the last minute, and we'll have everything in place and doing everything in a nice, gentle, calming way, which promotes time for you, gives you the chance to relax and unwind and just slow your mind, slow your brain down, giving you that wonderful you time, that time that you can just sit and think about all the things that you either need to do, want to do. Just enjoy the process of feeling the fabric and the old forgotten pastimes of slow stitching, and just enjoying that as a lovely activity. I'm going to start on the outside and coming in just a few millimeters. Now I'm left-handed, so you do this whatever feels right for you, but you start on the outside and then you want small stitches but not tiny, and you're keeping the needle still and straight, and you're just fanning and you're just bringing the cotton fabric onto it like that. So it's just going like that. All right, so just keep the width away from the circle top. Do larger stitches but not minuscule. It's a quick craft. It doesn't need to be anything fussy. We're not turning anything in. We're doing a Suffolk puff yo-yo, and it just doesn't need to be anything neat because we are going to be embellishing it on the top, so we are not going to worry about those raw edges. Pull it, but don't pull it taut. We do that at the end. Just keep the needle still and put that on them, and just go forwards and backwards until you are coming right the way round like that. Okay, and then pull it through. Then you've got a little cup like that. This was our start thread here, and this is our finish thread. We've come out the same, so now we've got two threads. What we can do is we pull it all up, bunch it all up into a little pouch like that, and then squash it down. And you'll start to see, keep your threads taut, keep it bunched up. I like to just tie those two together to put the knot in there. There's probably a quicker way of doing it, but this is the way that feels right to me right now, so I'm just going to do that to secure it. Then you just manipulate it round as you take your thread still attached and you go through the centre to finish it off. And just pull that through. And then from here you can come back up and you're now in position to sew on a button. I've got a lovely old tin here from the 1920s, early 1920s, and I just want something Christmassy, maybe something green, perhaps something like that. All right, so I've got my buttons at the ready. Let's just get the little project here in front of us so we can see how this is going to look, and then we can work out what button is going to look nice. So there's a number of buttons that are going to work. I'm just going to sew on this one and see how we go. This is a nice wide one. I'm just putting in a few stitches now just to get that button secured, and then we can have a look at the effect. All right, I'm going to release that, leave the thread on there because I shall want that, and then I can work out where they're going to go. So we're going to do a few more, and then this time I'm going to do a smaller one. Holding the tail end, I'm just going to draw that up. And this one is going to be smaller. And then we just squash it down like that. You can see how they shrink down. They really do come in almost to half of the... So it's half is the sort of diameter that you're going to get. 3 inch produces a size like that. 1 3/4 is going to give you like that. 3 inches is like that, and then the little small one is just 1 1/2 inches, and then that is just a little tiny one. Okay, for this next bit, my idea is that I've gone through all my beads and buttons and things, and I found these in my stash. They are freshwater pearls that I used for a project very long time ago when I was doing wedding favours and I was left with these. Now they're just sitting there and they're not being used, so they are little seed beads and they are freshwater pearl. And what I want to do is I want to attach them onto here to form the mistletoe. So I've got a very thin needle and thread here. I'm going to take my seed pearl bead, and this could be any bead. It could be a sequin, it could be a little charm, something. And I'm just going to find sort of the centre point there coming up, and I think I'll just put a stitch in to begin with. Just to get going. Threading on my bead, and then that is going to sit there and form the little berry of the mistletoe. So I'm going to sew those on, and I'll just sew a few on and see how we go. So then I'll just put in another stitch and see if we can secure that down and see what it looks like. Okay, so that is how it's going to appear, and it's just going to be embellished like that. So I got a few fun facts about mistletoe. So it's used as a symbol of renewal because mistletoe stays green all through the winter. It's made famous because of the stolen kisses under the mistletoe. But also the plant is important to wildlife, and it has quite critical value to humans as well. And that's because the extracts from mistletoe are newly being used in Europe. So the berries of mistletoe are actually quite toxic and sort of poisonous, but they have had some new research showing that mistletoe is being used in the treatment for cancer cures, and it is coming out with some better results than chemo. So this is pioneering science, but in particular for colon cancer. So when you see mistletoe, it attaches itself to a host tree. By its very nature, it is actually a parasite on a tree. But there's 20 species that are endangered, and it's because of the research being done into mistletoe now, it's even more important that we are looking after our natural world. And looking at this Yuletide, this is very much a part of our culture and our history. And even if you are from another country, but you may be looking up your family history, perhaps you've been looking into genealogy and your family tree. Perhaps some of you have taken a DNA test and realised that you do have ancestry links to the British Isles and to Europe. And in which case, it's quite a lovely thing to be mindful of the natural world, because we're all connected by it, and we have such lovely history woven in through nature, which connects and binds us all. So ancient Anglo-Saxons noticed that mistletoe often grows where birds leave droppings, which is how mistletoe got its name. So in Anglo-Saxon, mistle means dung and tan means twig. So it was mistletoe, but that got changed over time and became mistletoe. But it literally translates into dung on a twig. So what happened was the birds would leave their droppings on the twigs of the trees, and they would of course been feeding on the berries, on these berries that I'm now doing here. And the seeds would stick to the trees, and that is how the mistletoe started to grow. And what happens, it quickly puts its roots down, but it puts the roots down which burrow into the host tree, and then it will be able to take nutrients from the tree. And you think, well, isn't that harming the tree? Well, actually it is. It will be taking nutrients from the tree, and it will be causing damage. It can ultimately kill the tree. And then over time, the tree begins to hollow out and provides essential nesting for breeding birds. So it's by amazing design that all of this is here, and we have now only just discovering that something that is a cancer on a tree, a parasite on the tree, could well be part of the treatment in the future to help others. So hope is there. We are really, really making some amazing discoveries, and our natural world is amazing, and we just need to look after our environment. And then of course the kissing custom, which dates back to the 1500s. So the original tradition was to bring the mistletoe into the home and then be able to hang it up above a doorway, and the mistletoe with the most berries would provide you the most kisses, because every time you had a kiss, the lovers were supposed to remove a berry, and then once all the berries were gone, there would be no more kisses. So if your mistletoe boughs were bountiful, then it was going to be an interesting festive time. So this is all part of Yule, and it's a very, very old tradition. So the Yule log is another symbol of Yuletide, which is where a whole tree would have been chopped down back in the day, because the people believed that when the sun was going down in the sky, it was sleeping, and so they burnt the log to restore the light, and it was also to pay tribute and see if they could encourage the sun to come back again by this burning log. And if they burnt it for 12 days, then that should be enough to secure the possibility of the sun returning, so that they could carry on growing their crops. So I think that was pretty desperate times, wasn't it, when you think you haven't got the sun and you're going a bit hungry because you rely on the sun to grow crops. and you're just left with winter berries and things like that. It's a very, very hungry time, which is why meats would have been looked at for feasts and festivities. So it's really, really fascinating topic if you look it up, as is mistletoe, which is called Phoradendron in North America. That translates from the Greek and it means tree thief. And I just think this is coming along really nicely with these seed pearl beads being put on here. So I'm really enjoying this sitting here. It's a nice quiet little craft. I can see in the daylight today, and I'm just enjoying putting my little berries on there. But not everybody has little mini pearl beads, and they don't have to be real. They could be plastic if you have such a thing. Any broken jewelry, any broken bracelets, or little seed beads that you could put on, little clear ones, cream ones, anything that could work. And if you haven't got anything like that, and again, sewing is just not something that you want to do and it's just too fiddly for you, then the other thing I've got here is the 3D effects, sort of pearl effects, and that's from Dovecraft, and I got these in the Poundland here in the UK, but you can get them, can't you? I think they're called stickles, and you would be able to just dot them on. And if you didn't want to do this fabric idea, then you would just put them onto the paper. Let's go with this nice pearl one. Because it's a 3D, we just put a little blob on, and then of course it's all there for you. You can see where you need to put your pearl. So I'm just dabbing those on. That's very speedy. So if you just wanted to cut out some of this and decorate it up with the 3D pearls, you could do that. So you could do that. Or you could get, some of you I know have got the watercolour paints and they come with a pearlescent, a white pearlescent paint. That would be great. You could just put a little blob of that on each of these berries and achieve a really lovely effect. Then you could put your yo-yos around the side, you could glue them on and you wouldn't need to worry about it, and you've still achieved this effect without having to do the fabric. And equally they could be flowers or other elements. You could maybe fussy cut the red and have the red poinsettia put around the side there as well, just to embellish those. And I got the pink, but I don't think we want that. I just thought that was quite a nice idea, because instead of a button you could do the same there. If you could put a piece of paper and then you could decorate it with a pearlescent colour as well. So if you haven't got a button, you can put paint on paper and make paper buttons. Okay, so here we have all the wonderful little seed pearls that have been sewn on. So I opted to do the berries all the same in the same seed beads. I just thought that looked really, really lovely. The next thing I've done then, so we had our sandwich here, if you remember, of the 3 layers. I've then backed some card very loosely just by taking my glue, and I've put that down there. I haven't stuck the edges down, I've just tacked it down with a little bit of glue. Okay, how I'm going to tackle this is I'm taking a nice lot of thread. I've doubled it up, so I've got 2 thicknesses of thread here. I'm putting a knot in the bottom of my thread, and then I'm just going to start in the middle of this piece, and I'm going to then come over directly opposite, trying desperately not to get in a tangled mess here, but I did start with a lot of thread, but that was really so that I can just keep going. And then we're going over in large zigzag triangles. Unhook that, and then you'll see how this works. So then you'll see that it will be pulling across like a corset ribbon. So So we're starting in the middle and working to one end. This is all for tension, all about the tension, keeping it. You don't want to pull it so hard that your card starts to bow. We don't want that. We just want it on there. And I'm probably leaving about an inch between the stitches, roughly that. And the easiest thing is to just take a little bit off the corner. Don't snip through your thread. Middle here, and come down to here. And then I'm just finishing putting a little stitch in here because we've run out of thread and need to get a bit more. But what we can see now is how to stick some of this down using a fabric glue. So that is a nice, easy way of getting the fabric to come in exactly where you need it. When pinning it is going to be a bit of an issue. So I've been able to get my fabric to come in and behave. I can now put the glue in those little pockets that has been created, and I can get my fabric glue all the way around. So actually we don't need to do all the sewing, it's just brought the tension in that we need. It's a good trick when you haven't got much fabric to play with. You can just pull it in. And now what you're left with is this beautiful, quite lovely, soft padded top, and that can be stuck down on any journal, so it's a lovely journal topper. Okay, I've just been having a little play with my yo-yos and I'm having a look at the placement here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on with a 3-in-1 or a Fabri-Tac, probably best. Sometimes less is more, but at Christmas perhaps more is more, and so I think I'm going to use all of them. I could sew them on through the buttons if I want to. I'm just going to glue them on for now. I want to be able to see my Yuletide. That looks good, so just sort of, that's fine. All right, and just to remind you that this was printer ink and not permanent fabric ink, so you wouldn't really want to be washing any of your printed fabric. But that is the top of our booklet. Isn't that just so beautiful? And then that will all get stuck down on something else. So I was only given 2 sheets at the start of this. That's these 2 sheets. But Rachel, Bella and Rose from Journals in Time have also produced freebies on their Ko-fi page, on their coffee page. So this is one that I've printed out, a freebie from Rose in Journals in Time. There were 4 to choose from, but I've gone for this one because I love that. And on Rachel's page, she's got these lovely splatters. She's got 2. One had musical notes, old vintage music paper as well, and this is gold splatters, but I like that. It looks like age spots. I'm covered in glue. So I've printed these out, and then we've got this page which has got the raised 3D that we used here, and I'm just going to assemble something for you very quickly so you can see back to basics. It doesn't all have to be complicated, long-winded sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do here is I've folded this in half and I've printed it out on presentation card, just using some glue that I know is just going to grab quickly, 3-in-1, and I'm putting my cover on here now, so you can see that it doesn't need to be all complicated. So you can achieve the look if you don't want to get involved in the fabric and the yo-yos. And from here you could maybe see about some paper embellishments and have a look at what you might have to hand, or a little pack of embellishments from the works, and you would still be able to achieve a similar effect. Okay, so we've got this and this. This I feel could be the topper of a journal because it is really quite special. It's fabric, it's pearl, it's satin, and it's vintage buttons and treasured pieces to bring it to a really special piece, but it's the same image, okay? So it's the same thing, but we can still achieve this in paper form. So then what we could do just before I embellish it is, this is the inside, doesn't look very scintillating. So I'm just taking some Yoo-hoo glue. So I'm creating a soft booklet cover here, and I'm just using what we've got to hand, which is this lovely paper. And so this is how we're looking. It is just 2 sheets of paper stuck together, but they were printed on quite stronger cardstock, so they're like that. We've got a crinkle there, but then that was in the paper to begin with, and then I've stuck on that front cover, which I've embellished. I've got some pages here that can go like that, and if you're happy with a sewing machine, you can sew all the way around, and we can sew the signature in from there. I think what I'll do is I'll just sew around the edge, and I'll quickly show you how to attach that in case we haven't seen it. There are lots of videos on my journal bookmaking playlist on this channel to show you how to put a journal together, and the 3-hole and 5-hole pamphlet stitch. Now, so we've got some stitches slightly haphazard all the way around, but that has tethered everything together. You don't need to do that step. You can just glue around nice and neatly and not have to worry about the sewing, but it does bring another decorative element to it. And I've actually used a bronze thread, so a metallic thread, which is nice for this sort of style craft. So just go round with the ink, and then that gets rid of any white edges from the digital kit, and it's as if it was never there. And maybe a bit down the side as well, just a little bit of grunge, just to bring a bit of an old nostalgia back, because we're dealing with 1893. Okay, so I've done my yo-yos. I'm now going to use some yarn, and I'm going to tie this all together with some brown yarn. I've got some pages here already done. So I've got my pages here. What I thought would be quite good is to just throw in a paper bag. So this is a glassine bag, and that can come and live there. And I might just cut off that back bit to make a pocket at the back. And then maybe something in the middle for my signature. I'm thinking an envelope here, which I can then hide my threads, so that will appear like that. Let's do it like, take a pokey tool and make sure that I've got a hole going through that side, and then I want to have one at the top and one at the bottom like that, and then through the center we go. Back up through one of the holes, all the way over to the other hole, out again, and then through the centre, through that way, up through the other. So I cut loads off, didn't need that much. Okay, let's just have a wiggle here. Make sure your threads go either side of that centre stitch, and then tie a knot and another one. So that's now nice and secure. You can put a bead of glue on there if you so wish. Cut that. Okay, let's tidy up. Putting a little bit of glue along there so the yarn can just sit neatly inside this envelope, which is going to now be glued down, and hopefully that will just remain there and won't interfere with anything that I want to put in the pocket. But that will be able to flip over. We've hidden our middle thing. This isn't the nicest thing to look at, but no problem, because Rose has provided this lovely image here with those poinsettias, which just sit really nicely with this bluey background I've got going on here today. So I am just going to glue that down, and we will never know that that was an envelope. So that is how we do that. And then we can just glue that bit down from the kit. This came from the first page with the front cover. I think this is lovely, a warm heart and a glowing hearth just sums up that Yuletide feel. I've backed this card onto some packaging paper and it's got a really nice crunchy feel which reminds me of a crackling fire. So I'm going to do a corner tuck here, and I think this little booklet could be just useful for now when we're trying to plan what we want to have, and keeping receipts and things all in check. They could all tuck in here, couldn't they? And that just gives a little bit more strength on that corner as well. I've inked around the edge of all of these with a ground espresso archival ink, and that is a lovely dark edging. It's almost like a burnt edge if you wanted to go really strong with it. I mean, I don't need to really around this envelope because it's an eco dye. It went in with a load of rust and has oxidised and all sorts of things, but they are little pocket extras, and I think it's quite nice at this time of year when we've got lots of receipts and we buy presents for people, and you could just tuck them in there, and then you know what they are. You could even write a note to yourself what it all was. Perhaps that's the envelope for one of your family members, and that's another one, so all of the things are kept in there if anybody wanted to exchange something. And then to open this up to be useful, we just need to take the scissors and very carefully just snip down the side there, and then you can open it up and you've got another useful little pocket, and you can't really see your thread because we stuck it down. I'm going to show you a flip through of what I've done with just 2 pages of this 72-page kit, and I hope you've enjoyed my pearls of wisdom as we've had a look at the letter Y today for creating, and we've used yo-yos and yarn, yummy beads and buttons, and ultimately time, made time for a quiet, forgotten pastime, sat down and enjoyed ourselves. And this topper could be something that is added to a main journal to look really spectacular, something like that, or it could be applied to the booklet here, and that would just be stuck down with a strong glue in either case. We'll have a look at the flip through and I will tell you what all the cards have to say. A warm heart and glowing hearth. Joyous Yule. The merry joyous time comes round once more, and greetings warm exchanged, twixt friend and friend renew the tie of friendship as of yore, accept the hearty wishes that I send. A Yuletide message. This is an olden message and often told, but tell it again with heart sincere, let it be written in words of gold. A happy Christmas, a bright new year. Yuletide memories. Old memories come back to me, old tunes my heart is singing. Ah, Yule, no joy can sweeter be than those which thou art bringing. Do thou brightest gifts combined to bless and cheer all friends of mine. Yuletide greetings. When we recall the days gone by and welcome Yule with joy, how sweet to gather up each cherished tie with hearts that yet responsive beat, and once again to bid friends take a greeting for the old time's sake. Christmastide. Ah, Yules may come and Yules may go, but friendship fails us never. No wintry chill its flames may know. Friends once are friends forever. This has been a lot of fun. I've added a few of my own ephemera pieces in there, as I'm sure you spotted. They did not come from the digital kit, the images of St Nicholas. And there's lots of information here on my channel, as there is on all the collaborators that have been part of the A to Z Christmas challenge. And do go and please have a look at the link tree below in my description, and you'll see all of the videos that have been put together from A through to Z, and some extra bonus features as well. I want to say thank you to everybody for subscribing and all your wonderful comments. And from me, Melanie, at the Treasured page, I wish you a wonderful Christmas time and a happy new year. I hope that you've had fun with the collaboration and that you'd consider subscribing to the Treasured page to find more inspiration and intrigue here. I post up videos 3 times a week, and I also have a weekly podcast coming out on a Monday and a Thursday. So thank you very much for listening to me. I've had a lot of fun here. It's been a wonderful experience to collaborate with all the other creators. And above everything else, guys, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.